Good morning and welcome. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. It's the 14th day of March 2022. That's 3.14. It's Pi Day. Woohoo! It's 51 degrees and cold here in Ventura, California. And I'm either having a horrible allergy attack or I'm sick again. I just cannot win. Anyways, it's Monday, so let's take a look at the tabletop role-playing game news that's going to influence this week and see what's going on in the world of our beloved hobby. Okay, so we have the first premiere trailer, whatever you want to call it. What are these things called? Preview of Call of the Netherdeep from Matt Mercer. This is his last thing for Wizards of the Coast. Maybe, not maybe. We've got a preview of a couple of the NPCs, and people are calling out two of the NPCs. Ivan Wastewalker, who's a Tier 1 NPC for Call of the Netherdeep, who looks a lot like Shaggy. And then we have Dermot Wooder, who is a Goblin Cleric, Tier 1 NPC for Call of the Netherdeep, who for some reason looks exactly like Yoda. We also get a first look at what the new stat blocks are going to look like. I don't know how this... I mean, they look pretty much the same as stat blocks have always looked for monsters and bad guys and NPCs and modules. I'm not seeing much in the way of changes. Yeah, they look pretty much the same. So I'm not sure if the Mordekainen post-Tasha changes affect Call of the Netherdeep or not. But yeah, I think the main thing we're getting from the people who've seen the preview is, why does these two NPCs look like characters from well-known franchises, Shaggy and Yoda? Was this Mercer's idea? Was it somebody's art's idea? Is it just collective unconscious and it wasn't necessarily meant to look like these characters, just for some reason they do? Actually, Ivan, the first one, looks more kind of like Mercer than Shaggy, but there's definitely some Shaggy. The second one, though, definitely Yoda. Not sure why. I'm not sure why this is news, but it is. Moving on. This week's marks the launch of EN Live. As you might remember, EN World is expanding its media coverage onto multiple new platforms. In addition to the podcast, they will be doing their own, TV thingy on, I don't know, TikTok and YouTube, and just jumping on the whole, we're trying to have our own streaming RPG channel. Once again, I'm predicting by 2025 we will have a dedicated tabletop role-playing game streaming service similar to like Peacock and those things, and the other ones. There's a lot of them. I mean, there is a lot, so yeah, doesn't really surprise me. The newest Unearthed Arcana is something as many people have been clamoring for. It's Dragonlance rules. Well, it's not really Dragonlance rules. It's a couple things taken from Dragonlance and then chopped up, spat out, and made 5e friendly. We have two new feats, a couple backgrounds, and of course we have the first look at the Kender, who are now Feywild and not halflings who just like to take things. We have the Lunar Magic subclass for the Sorcerer, which a lot of people like. Other than that, we don't know if this is going to be part of a Dragonlance-specific source book or part of a collection, as part of the upcoming multiverse. We do have a new book coming from Margaret and Tracy, but this has nothing to do with Margaret and Tracy. They had nothing to do with the creation of these 5e playtesty stuff, Dragonlance themed. There is a new book coming out from them called Dragons of Deceit, and it comes out in August. And that should be... maybe there's a Dragonlance setting for 5e. Maybe there's not Dragonlance setting for 5e. Would 5e do Dragonlance justice, or would 5e ruin Dragonlance? who knows? Maybe Dragonlance is the perfect setting for 5e. They're really, it seems like they want 5e to be D&D meets Magic, so who knows? Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America announced the finalists for the Nebula Awards, and the Nebula Awards for game writing is dominated by tabletop role-playing games, as opposed to other games that involve extensive writing, like Pinochle. Yeah, that's a badly written sentence. So we've got Coyote and Crow, which is the science fantasy post-Holocaust alternate future, imagining a world where the First Nation individuals were never colonized. We have Grandma's Hand, which is a game based on the golden age of comic books. It's $10 on Amazon. I picked it up. The system is pretty familiar looking. It's basically, it looks a lot like Powered by the Apocalypse or Year Zero. It's an exploding D6 system. So I'm not sure why the system I don't think the system is what nominated. I think the writing is what nominated, because the idea there's, of an alternate fiction comic book world where a lot of the main characters were people of color, as opposed to, the fact that white saviors dominated comics for a long time in the 1930s to 1950s. So I'm sure that's what got it the nominee, because it certainly wasn't the game system. We have Thirsty Swords Lesbians, which is nominated. Don't give Thirsty Swords Lesbians too much slack. I've been reading through it, and it's not that bad. We have Wander Home, the pastoral RPG about anthropomorphic animals traveling through a world. That one's amazing. I love that one. We have Wild Mirth, which is a turn-based fantasy RPG following heroes over entire generations with a highly tabletop RPG-inspired gameplay and aesthetic. I've got that one too. I'm reading through that one now. These are the only tabletop role-playing games that have been nominated other than Fate. Fate was nominated for Nebula War in 2020. Lord knows why. And now we have these. Noticeably missing from the list, of course, is that there's not a single Wizards of the Coast product nominated for the Nebula Awards, and never have been nominated. We have the ICV2 released the industry reports for the fall 2021. RPG sales. We know that RPG number one sales is Dungeons & Dragons 5e. Number two is a surprise, though. We talked about this earlier today. Pathfinder. Pathfinder has jumped to number two of sales of tabletop role-playing games in the United States. That's huge considering where they were this time last year. It's also showing that a lot of people seem to be abandoning D&D for other games, specifically Pathfinder, and then other games that are going to give them like. Also on the list, Fallout, the RPG, is up there. Call of Cthulhu, of course, is up there. So we have, Dungeons & Dragons 5e at number one. This big surprise, Pathfinder at number two in sales. So, wow, what does that mean? Hey, remember that Wizards of the Coast versus TSR 3.5 thing going up? Well, apparently it's still continuing. I know we haven't mentioned it in a while, so if you're like me, you completely forgot about it or don't care. Anyways, this little kernel of nonsense is still going on in the world of courts that is Seattle. Now, of course, we know Seattle is a completely separate planet from the rest of the world, so who knows. But everything, we have some new news on that. Wizards of the Coast has not only responded to the lawsuit, but they are also counter-suing TSR3, the Dungeon Hobby Shop, and Justin Lenar. So personally, for those seeking a summary of events leading up to the lawsuit, there is a full timeline, and it apparently has something to do with trademarks of the word TSR, some graphic logos, and the name Star Frontiers. Now, this gets so confusing because it's like who filed which first, and Wizards of the Coast sued TSR, then TSR sued Wizards of the Coast, then Wizards of the Coast sued TSR, then TSR dropped it and moved it over to Seattle, hoping that a Seattle court would better suit their suit. Suit their suit? Yeah, that made no sense. That would look upon them more favorably than settling in another state, because, you know, D&D is in Seattle. D&D provides Seattle a ton of money. So, yeah, Seattle court would be way more likely to vote in your favor, TSR, than, say, a court in your hometown. Yeah. So they moved it to Seattle, and then they filed a new suit, and Wizards of the Coast responded. Now remember, this is TSR 3. This lawsuit has nothing to do with TSR 1 or TSR 2. This is TSR 3. Okay, the charity bundles are up on Itch.io. My friend Rasputin is reviewing them all. So if you want to check out some charity bundles that are supporting trans rights or collecting money to support the victims of the Ukraine one has got about 1,000 titles for $10, including video games, comic books, music, and at least 30 to 60 tabletop role-playing games of various sites. I have gone through, that is the one I got. There's a couple really good ones on there. The rest are mediocre. There's a lot of party games and solo journaling games and card games that are being called tabletop role-playing games, and they're really not. There's also a lot of tabletop role-playing games in there that really don't, didn't need to be a tabletop role-playing game. It could have just been, supplements for existing systems. A lot of them could have been supplements for Lasers and Feelings or Powered by the Apocalypse, but I guess people need, to make their own systems. But really, you don't. The systems already exist, telling the story you want to tell. So make supplements for existing systems. And yeah. So both of these are up. And then we have the trans right one, which has got 500 titles for $5. And including in that one are PDFs for Numenaria and some other stuff from our friend Monty Cook. So both of those are up at Itch.io. They are to support various charity and humanitarian funds. The $10 one, all the funds, or a large portion of the funds, will go to support victims of what's going on in the Ukraine. And then the other one will go to support trans rights. The first DLC for Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous is now available, along with a batch for the base game. This one is called Inevitable Access. It provides a new endgame that can be played using imported characters from the main game, an all-new party, or start an all-new party of high level. So if you want to skip all that trudging around, you can just start this up and start at high level. So if you've been playing Pathfinder and want to get some more stuff for the Pathfinder video game, check it out. Bundle time! Your favorite time of the day where I mispronounced the word bundle. Humble Bumble has partnered with Goodman Games to offer the 5th edition fantasy bundle. This includes several adventures, DM's guide, player's guides, stuff like that. All made by Goodman Game for 5th edition. This is not the same as the 5e conversions of classic modules they've been doing, like Expedition and stuff like that. This is separate stuff they've done for 5e, more like zines and magazines and DM and player aids. So this bundle ranges from $1 all the way up to $10 and goes to support the Global Food Bank Network. Over at Bundle of Holding, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 bundles, 2 of which we've already talked about, 2 of which brand new. No, 3 of which are brand new. Wait, no, okay. Ignore that. Just ignore anything I say. There's a Buffy and Angel from Eden Studios bundle up at Bundle of Holding. This contains all the stuff that ever came out for the Buffy and Angel role-playing game. $8 gets you the core rulebook, 1, 2, 3 supplements, or you can go for the upgrade, which gets you the Angel role-playing game and 1, 2, 3 more supplements. Elephant and Macaw is still up. We've talked about this before. I've spoken to 2 people who have taken a look at it and say that Elephant and Macaw is a really decent, fun game that offers a different take on classic fantasy, being that it's set in Brazil with Witcher-style monster hunting, as opposed to Monster Hunter-style monster hunting. I don't know what the difference between Monster Hunter-style monster hunting and Witcher-style monster hunting is, but heads up. The Torg collection is still up, so if you want to take a look at Torg, we have both the Cosmos and the Essentials up. The Essentials contains everything you need to start playing Torg. It's got the rule book, the screen, some adventures, and then the other one, we have the Eternity one, which is for $24, and you get more source books. And you can even get the bonus collection, which has even more and more source books. So for about $40, you can get everything that was ever made for Torg from Bundle of Holding. Torg was a game a lot like Warp World or Rifts, where, it described a world after a Holocaust, but instead of one Holocaust, it was several Holocausts, and there was gods walking around and vampires, and all sorts of weirdness. Also, Masks, a new generation is up. This is the Powered by the Apocalypse superhero role-playing game. For $12, you get the rule book and some source books for Masks. And that is all the bundles this week. What else is going on, if anything, that we haven't already talked about? There's a platinum edition of Wild Beyond the Witchlight from Beatles and Grimm. It's probably going to run... I don't see a price, but let's assume $60. And some figures for Wild Beyond the Witchlight, also from Beatles and Grimm. So I guess Beatles and Grimm are starting to do figures now. And there's a Wild Beyond the Witchlight stuffed animal that looks like a purple dragon with a mustache. So all this stuff you can get for $500, or individually for $30-$50 each. Yeah, that's what I want to spend my money on. Yeah, $500 for Wild Beyond the Witchlight stuff. Congratulations to the nominees for the Nebula Awards: Coyote and Crow, Grandma's Hand, Thirsty Swords, Lesbians Wander Home, and Wild Mirth. Way to go, guys, that you got nominated for best sci-fi type stuff. Doesn't really matter what you think of the game. It's still pretty awesome that somebody from our community is getting nominated for Nebula Awards. Yeah, and that seems to be it for the Tabletop Role-Playing Game News of the Week. If you appreciate this content, let me know. If you don't appreciate this content, let me know. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Help me hit 1,000 subs by August 4th, and we'll do something crazy. Hello and welcome to all the new subs we picked up over the weekend. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Jay, over at Dream World Collectibles, for having that little party / grand opening, soft opening of his on Saturday. Got to meet a lot of people and hopefully reestablish some of the tabletop role-playing game life that is in Ventura, and we got to see some cosplayers, and it was all a lot of fun. Check out my videos on it, and we will hopefully have more videos on it soon. Till next time, I'm your guide to all the tabletop role-playing games news, weather, sports, and general internet nonsense that is the OGGM, asking you as always to get off my land, you damn kids, and your damn Scooby, you Shaggy, I don't even understand what this is.